Yo, what's up? It's Ashton Shanks here. I hope you're having a great day. In this video, you're going to be seeing a behind the scenes recording and training that I did with my internal team at my company as we're getting ready for Q4, getting ready to spend tens of millions of dollars over the holiday weekend. And I'm really excited for you to watch it. Now, update or a little notice for you is that this video was actually recorded about 2 years ago with my team, and I know immediately what people think is as soon as they see that and they see that it's from 2 years ago, they're like, oh, then none of this works anymore. That's actually not true. Not in the way I actually build my accounts. A lot of these strategies that you're going to see here are still being used today to manage millions and millions of dollars a month, every single month for our partners and clients. However, here in the next few weeks, I'm actually going to be recording a brand new training for this year's strategies that we're going to be doing and helping our clients really get the best results, expecting to spend anywhere from $15 to $20 million over the holiday. And so it's got some really good strategies. Now, there's some very advanced stuff in here. So what I would encourage is that you're newer into media buying, be very, very careful if you plan to use any of these strategies, because if you're not careful, some of them could cost you a lot of money if you're not careful or don't know what you're doing. So please be careful and know that, using these strategies, it only works if you do them correctly and realistically if you kind of know what you're doing already. So if you're newer to media buying, there's still a lot of these strategies that you're going to be able to apply. It's more for the advanced people if you get into the manual bidding, accelerated spend, things like that. But if you have not subscribed to my channel, be sure to subscribe so that when we come out with the brand new training here in the next few weeks, you'll be notified and you can get your hands on it. But for me, as a practitioner of media buying, just like a professional sports player, I love to spend a lot of time reviewing film, per se, reviewing what was working in the past, not just by me, my team, but what other media buyers were doing in the past, because just like in war or just like in sports, you can use and learn so much from how things operated in the past to know how to operate them better now, but even more so, how to actually think ahead to what might be changing and coming down the pike. So watch this video, make sure you bring notes, take your notes. This is some deep stuff, and again, it's with my internal team, so you're gonna see us get really in the weeds. It's not fancy with lighting and production. This is in the trenches, real stuff, me walking my team through setting up an account for Q4 that we wanted to spend anywhere from $80,000 to $150,000 a day on ads. And so you'll see me set up all the campaigns, walk through the entire philosophy, and I know it's gonna be really valuable for you and totally applicable to how you can operate accounts today. So don't be thrown off if some of the buttons are in different places. It feels like buttons get moved around all the time. Understand the principles, strategies, and thought process. That is what's going to allow you to have an incredible Q4. With that said, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and enjoy the video.
Today, I'm going to train you guys on some Black Friday, Cyber Monday scaling. What do you do when it becomes Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it gets crazy, right? And ultimately that day is game day, right? That's too late to change offers, too late to have a new big angle idea. So what do you do like when it's madness? Some of you are going to be spending more money than you guys have ever had to before. Some of you, this is, routine stuff. So I thought it'd be good to at least have a training on how do I manage ads in the thick of it. Right. And, a lot of what we talk about here at Human Media is around the principles of marketing, right? We talk about copywriting, we talk about creative, we talk about big ideas, but on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that's out the window. That is no longer the time to think about how to persuade or coerce your market into purchasing products. Black Friday, Cyber Monday is pure media buying days, which is what is cool. It's almost like, we get to take our time. We pride ourselves in being measured and calculated. But on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's like, how do we manage spend when you're expected to spend like $100,000 in a day, right? And so I'm going to walk you guys through specifically on one of our partners' accounts and really kind of building it out in front of you. And this will be a good training that you guys can look back to, have up next to you while the day is there, probably rewatch it that day, because ultimately, like when it comes down to it, I like Black Friday, Cyber Monday because it is a pure checking day, meaning it's aggressively checking. And I set up my accounts in a way to where I'm just checking to make sure all the systems I've created are doing their job. That's what your goal should be on that day, where you're just from your your perch up in the ship, just watching down and making sure all the systems that you've created actually are working and performing the way you need them to. And so let me go ahead and share my screen. And Joshua, if you could just Slack me the best headlines, the best copy, the best creative. If you need a few minutes, that's okay.
I did Slack you already.
Oh, beautiful. Already did it. Amazing. Let me go ahead and pull that up here. Okay. So these should be already, the first thing that I want you guys to think about is these should already be in a essentially a phase 3 state. You need to be in a phase 3 state for this to make sense. You should not be testing new copy. You should not be really testing new headlines or creative. Now, if you have things that are designed specifically for Black Friday, and so you don't test them yet, that makes sense, and that's fine. But the best thing that you could have is like if these have already been pretty pre-proven angles or big ideas, right? So I'm going to start off and I'm going to create my baseline phase 3 campaign. So let me go ahead and just create this guy here. And this is going to be a longer training, so feel free to grab a drink of water, something like that. It's going to be a longer training. All right, and I'm going to title this whatever you guys want. Naming convention doesn't matter. Let's just say this is like Monday tofu offer. Oop. Okay. This will be a CBO campaign to start off, and you can call it baseline. Okay. PPADS for past proven ads, conversions, purchase. Okay. All right. So I got my baseline campaign, CBO. For CBO, right off the bat, we want to make sure that we do have a correct CBO budget. Inside of this, Joshua, what's the average CPA that you're working with here?
About $90.
Okay. Is $90 an acceptable kind of CPA, or is it a little high, a little low? What is it?
Probably a tad high. Preferred is probably 80.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead. I'm going to bump it down just a little bit. 85 times. We're going to do 3 right inside of this one here. Times 3. 85 times 50 divided by 3. All right, so we're going to start off right at about 1416.66 as a daily budget. What I did here is I'm hedging a little bit of risk. We all know that each ad should have enough budget to get 50 conversions per week, right? Inside of this campaign, we're going to have 3 ad sets. But technically speaking, this right here should be the budget per ad set daily. But I'm hedging a little bit just because I know, one, this is my baseline campaign. So I'm actually just making that one budget, the campaign's budget overall, right? All I want this campaign to do is kind of set a baseline of my workhorse campaigns, right? We've talked about this before, where we have some campaigns that are workhorse campaigns. Some campaigns are designed to scale and test, right? We want this one to be nice and safe. We don't want to overhit the ad account with a budget it's not used to or it's not regularly seeing before. Oftentimes, I've seen if the account is not used to really high budgets, then you've got to be careful when you're going lowest costs, because it's just either it's not trained well enough or it's just it's forcing too much spend, right? So I have a nice, clean, easy budget here. And of course, your guys' budgets will change based on account. We're going to get the pixel correct. Joshua, which one are we using here?
Scroll down.
This one?
That one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. I'm going to make this top ad set my best interests. Okay. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and open up Magics. We all got that one, right? Everyone has access to it, hopefully.
You want me to Slack you the best interest? Would that be easier?
Now I'll walk it through just for these guys, just so that they haven't. Unless if you guys already know how to do this, then just let me know and we don't have to waste you guys' time. Let me go ahead and pause this so I can get this fixed, and then I'll bring it back over. All righty. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go just last 30, and let's filter down by interest here. CPMs, audience size, cool. I'm actually going to change this a little bit to Hyros. Have you found your Hyros ROAS to be accurate?
Not through Magix.
Okay. Are these fairly accurate with these interests that you're seeing?
Some of those are phase one, so they don't have a ton of spend behind them.
Uh-huh.
But it's give or take in the same
Cool.
industry.
All right. So immediately right off the bat, I can kind of guess it's like fancier name brands, designer brands ish is going to be our winning interest. So I'm going to come back over into my ads manager, and this is going to be my designer interest brand. Okay, stacked. Proven. Okay. Move that over. All right. Got Balenciaga. This guy's in. I absolutely love how glitchy it's been lately. Golden Goose. What is Golden Goose? A designer brand or what is that?
Yeah, designer shoes.
Okay, cool. Okay. From Mero, a little bit of spend. We'll add it anyway. It makes sense. Timberland Company. Okay. Hermes, Balmain. Okay. Let's keep adding these guys in. And I'm going to pick probably about top 5. Let's find another one let's see if we have any of them that have like a really good amount of spend. Giorgio Armani looks like a decent amount. Okay. Let's just add this one. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. So now I'm just going to come up and I'm going to label it top 5 stacked. The reason I'm going to do that is because initially, if this ad set doesn't start working in multiple different attempts, I'm going to resort to the next top 5. Right. So now that at least when I have this and I go pull up Magix, I go, what's the next top 5? So I can start testing it. I immediately I know which ones that we ended at. Okay. Now make sure I'm going to add in my exclusions. Purchase.
I do last 30 days, works best.
You just do last 30?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to look for engagers.
Yeah.
Let's do last 7. Last 7. Let's do some view contents. Let's do last 7 as well. Okay. And do we have customer lists?
Yeah, there's a couple in there.
Okay, we got that guy.
Type in all customers. There was like a 43,000. No.
All right, should be fine.
Yeah.
So get your exclusions in, then make sure you correct this guy. So it's living in location, whatever locations you guys do. Josh, what are we doing? We doing international? What are we doing?
US and Canada.
Okay. Okay. We got exclusions. We got our living ins. Age range. Is there any age ranges that definitely are not inside the market?
Yeah, do 35 plus. That's
Okay.
works best.
All the way to 65 plus?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, we've got that. Auto placements for now. This is going to be your baseline. Auto placements for now. Standard delivery. Let's go ahead and change this to 1-day click. We're looking for the impulse people. The impulse. Let's purchase ecom. All right. So we've got our baseline here. Designer interest stacked. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add in our post IDs that are proven. Now, if you're using Black Friday, Cyber Monday specific stuff, then you're going to want to adapt to this. So you're going to want to make sure you lay out your ads cleanly. What I'm going to recommend for something like this is 4 to 5 advertisements. If your budget's a little higher, then you can put in 1 or 2 more, but I would recommend you always start off with 4 to 5. So if you add in 8, turn off 3. So that way they don't run initially. The reason why you want to do this is because if during the middle of the day you notice that these guys aren't performing, you need new ads, you can turn on the ones that you've already placed inside of that ad set, and it will not hurt your learning phase. Okay. As long as you add those before you publish the campaign. All right. If you publish a new ad in the middle of the day, that's what resets your learning. But if you add 10 ad sets, but only start with 3 running, you can turn on the other ones at any time and you won't hurt your learning phase. That's really, really important. So make sure you do that. Stack it up, stack the deck.
I just gave you 2 more post IDs if you want to put 5 total.
Great. So for the example, I'm just going to use the post IDs, but if you guys have unique things for it, keep that in mind. I would actually, if you guys have Black Friday, Cyber Monday stuff, you should publish it no later than tomorrow at noon. Does that make sense, everyone? Tomorrow at noon. Reason is you can have big delays in getting that stuff approved right now, just because everyone else in the entire country is doing it. So you want to make sure you get yours in so you're good to go. ADC number 1. Let's just pretend this is it.
That would be Tuesday at noon for the
Yes.
recording people.
Yep. Okay. And for the sake of the event, essentially now, every time you have an ad, no matter what it is, you want to make sure you order it for this event. So in fact, actually, just for cleanness sake for you guys, it should be Black Friday, Cyber Monday, PPAD number 1. From now on, that is how you refer to that ad always. It's important that you remember those. You said 4. We got 4 mother ads here. So I'm just going to create these guys out. Man, gotta love how slow it is. There we go. All right. It's number 2. And can anyone tell me where you would set up the original ads for these? Like, where would you create the originals to get the post ID?
Sandbox.
Sandbox. Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep it created in the sandbox.
You have that post ID with the right amount together. I guess not that name.
Love it. So 3. Yeah, this one. You might give me another word.
Well, you see the red text?
Yep.
What you mean? You can have that change that. That'll do it.
There we go. Beautiful. Here. There we go. Okay. For the sake of this, I'm just going to schedule it. Obviously, you guys would schedule yours for whenever. I'm just going to schedule this for the morning of Wednesday, but obviously you guys just adjust it for whenever your times are. Make sure you keep in mind your time zones. Mountain time, obviously, if you wait until 6 a.m., it could be 9 a.m. on Eastern side. I think that's how that math works. If I'm correct.
2 hours.
Yeah, 2
8
hours. 6, 7, 8. So just make sure you schedule yours at the right times. The best way to go about finding the right time for you is honestly going to be looking at your account's history, find the volume of purchases and when they start to happen, and schedule it about 15 minutes before that starts. On Black Friday, Cyber Monday, though, if that's your goal to start, I would start it. You still want to make sure you start it early. Like if you find your peak time is around like 8 a.m., still start yours around like 6:30, 7 a.m. You want it to start getting delivery and start getting in the auctions early that morning. All righty. Okay, so we've got a baseline ad set up. Now we want to do this 2 more times. And we're going after the second one's going to be our second highest grouping of interests. And then the third ad set is going to be a stack of your best lookalikes. Okay. So this one, second highest pair of groupings. Joshua, what are those? We've done design brands with second highest groupings.
You want to list off 5?
Sure, yeah.
All right. I'll just copy these into the chat for you. They are wallet brands.
Okay, so we got a few more design brands for this, okay?
You have another entry? That's one. Right, so.
If these are second highest, let's stick with them.
Okay.
Designer, move on. This is slightly larger, so I'm just gonna go with that one. Okay. Now, with that, the one thing I'd say you guys really want to be prepared with that day, as far as changes go, is going to come down to your interests. So just like how Joshua right now has like a list of them, you want those easily to recall on you. So I would recommend you creating a doc, a Google Doc with the partner name and your top like 20 to 30 interests that are working. Okay. You're going to, as you're building this out for yourself, you'll go ahead and like highlight or cross out the ones you've already used. That when it becomes game day, and if you need stuff to pull out of, you can just go to that doc and go, what have I not used yet? And add those in and then cross them out. Right. This is like a little checklist that you're using. Okay. So we got this here. Okay. Now I'm going to come to lookalikes. Let's find our best performers. Is yours to at least 1%? Joshua, what's winning?
What's the time? Yeah.
Yeah, looks like 1%. Okay. Right. All right. You know which lookalikes are best? Or should I just pull from here?
Yeah, I can give you. Well, I mean, off of high risk ROAS, if you, it's not accurate, but like as far as numbers go, but I'd say it's accurate as far as performance.
Okay.
I mean, this is like a 43 ROAS, which is not true. Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
1-2%. So I'm just keeping this in mind. Notice how like it just is this audience seems to crush.
Mhm.
Keep those in mind. Those are that's a good back pocket one to expand out into if things aren't working. And you go, okay, we got 6%, we got 10%, 8%, 7%, right? Because I'm just noticing that audience is the top 3 right there. Right. So I'm still keeping 1% though. I want to keep them consistent. Okay, this one. I'm looking for about 5. If you don't have 5, that's fine. You just want to make sure you stay consistent. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just need one more. Let's go right here. All right. So I got that. I'm going to make sure, make sure you cancel out the interest. It's an easy mistake to make. Okay, one day, still good. All right, I'm going to publish those. Okay, this has become my baseline campaign. What you can do if you want to start hedging, like if you're an account that doesn't have as large of a budget, one thing you can do is add in some remarketing ad set into this. That will help make your spend a little bit more efficient, giving Facebook the chance to choose remarketing versus cold targeting to try to make sure you're hedging the most money you can. But if you have a larger spend, then don't worry about adding the remarketing into this. That's another campaign. This has become the baseline. Let's say, for example, this starts crushing well. This is like initially what I want to start early, and I want to keep my eyes on it pretty good. Starting early, let's say this one immediately does well. Or if you already know it does well, you're going to want to create these campaigns right off the bat. First campaign I'm going to duplicate this. Let's say that this is a performer. I'm going to do new campaign. And I'm just going to copy the naming convention over here that I used originally. Okay. I'm going to say this is a bid cap campaign. PPAD. ABO.
If you want to look, I do have a bid cap finder campaign. If you want to put a bid in there now.
What do you mean a big cap? Oh, you're testing those already? Great.
Yeah, I did over the weekend.
Sick. All right, let's go take a look at it.
You want the Hyros API key as well to pull that up?
Sure. This one?
Yeah. Those top 5 ad sets probably did 3 months ago or 2 months ago.
Roger. All these ones down here are the ones you're doing. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just look for delivery. That's what we're kind of looking for, guys. We're just looking for delivery. When does delivery start to happen?
I don't think I went low enough because I did a $64 one. It looks like it got like 15 cents or something.
Yeah, it looks like you're starting to get delivery around 64.
63 even.
All right, cool. So we found the moment that we started getting delivery. It looks like it started getting some actually solid costs around 69, but it gets delivery around 63. So what we want to do on this other campaign, and actually I'm going to leave this here, and I'm just going to, man, my computer is so laggy right now. I'm going to stop this. Maybe that'll end it. And I'm going to bring this over because I don't want to lose that data. Okay. So what we're going to do essentially is we wanted to start playing. I want you to think of bid caps like a game of Battleship. Okay. All you're trying to do is like narrow in. You're like guessing here, you're guessing here. And as soon as you start getting delivery, that means you're narrowing in on the ship, right? And so you just want to start placing closer and closer and closer until you find that perfect equilibrium of getting good delivery, but also getting good purchases. Okay. So BC, we're going to do man bid BC. BC. We saw 63 started getting delivery. So let's actually back it down to 60. And you want to put your budgets high. All right. If you're depending on your budget, this is where you're going to start playing around, but you want it to be high. You will not spend this budget, or the goal is to not spend this budget. Right. So, what you want to do, or the reason why you're doing this is, if you guys remember the training on pacing, right? Pacing is essentially Facebook's taking your budget that you give it, and on lowest cost bidding, they're spending whenever they see conversions, but they also are trying to pace your budget throughout the day because they want you to be able to have budget at 11 p.m. at night. So you actually can miss out on conversions at 9 a.m. just because Facebook was like, well, we could try to get the conversions, but also we got to spend later. So we're not going to bid on it. Right. So you want this high enough to where you don't miss out on those conversions. It's going to be anywhere from $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a day. If you are not being as aggressive in your bidding styles, you need to have a little bit lower of a budget because there is a chance that it starts to get running away. But if you're hyper focusing on these ad sets, what they're spending, put a higher budget because you're going to be watching it anyway. So I would put this around $10,000 a day.
Question.
Yep.
How does the bid change from the type of audiences that you're going towards? Example, in that bid cap finder campaign that I had, that was my proven lookalike stack that I did that with. So could we expect in a interest-based lookalike, could we expect that bid that we started getting delivery to be different, or would we think it's the same?
Delivery will be completely different on every grouping of audiences that you have, depending on lookalikes, depending on if you're going after interests or competitors, depending on if you're going just after demographics or if you're going after behaviors. Bids will be different everywhere, right? It all comes down to competition. How many other people are going after the same audiences that you're going on, right? If everyone in the world is targeting Louis Vuitton, well, then Louis Vuitton is going to need higher bids to get delivery. Right. So you're going to need to watch this. That's why it's very important that, hey, on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, if your campaigns start at 5 a.m., you need to be up at 5 a.m. watching. You need to be up at 5 a.m. watching. That's just a part of media buying. That's a part of agency life. But if you're going to have this kind of stuff, the worst thing in the world would be for you to wake up, get to your ad accounts, and they're already spending an intense amount of money and you haven't been watching it. Okay. So you want to be over it. And if you're worried, hey, am I going to be actually up at that time or am I going to sleep through my alarm? Then you need to put your bids lower. The difference is, though, the lower you put your bids below the point it gets delivery, the longer it's going to take you to find a bid that actually starts delivering, right? Because you can't just bump these bids up, $20, $30 a chance, because that's just too much of a gap. Think when you start with these bids, you're going to inch them up $1 to $2 every 40 minutes based on delivery, right? And if you have, if you saw that you got delivery at 63, but I start down at 45, well, it's going to take me a long time to actually even get to that median area where I think I'm going to get delivery. Does that make sense? So you just want to make sure you pace it out. It's kind of a gut feeling here to where you start. We started getting delivery here. Let's actually take a look. Let's just see what some other ones we're getting. These are all lookalikes. Yeah, so these are all lookalikes. So all of our insight is based on lookalike audiences. Could get different delivery if I'm doing interest based. So you just want to be cautious of that. 60, probably still a good area. It's probably not going to be night and day difference on bids, but it will be different. So you just got to keep that in mind. Make sure you adjust the setting. I don't know if we kind of brushed over it, but there was a setting down here that said adjust the bidding strategy, bid cap. That's what this one's going to be. It's just bid cap. Okay. Cost cap's going to be next. So we're starting bid cap. We got the interest in. We said 60. We put 60 here. And let's make sure that we just scheduled. Yep. Okay. And it's scheduled. All right. So I'm going to hit publish. Okay. So we got this published. Now, like I said before, we're playing Battleship, remember? So on this, I like to do anywhere from 5 to 10 ad sets feelers. Just because I'm more aggressive, I want to do 10. So I'm going to duplicate this 9 times. Great. And if you come in here, you can hit edit name. And I'm going to do this across all of them right off the bat so that it's a little bit faster, right? So I started at 60. My next one, I'm going to do it 62. Okay. Next one, I'm going to do a 64, 66, 68, 70, 72, 74, 76, 78. Okay, so that was there. So now I'm going to do come in. Actually, I'm not sure people can usually, but I thought they changed it. Let me see.
I think you
That would
can.
be the easiest thing in the world. Yes. Yes. See, now it's super easy. Now, line up 70, 64, 74, 72, 62, 76, 72, 66, 78, 68. Great. And this bad boy is going to load for a second. While it's doing that, here's a big thing too. When it starts, if it started in the morning and I see almost no delivery, right? If it starts in the morning, I see almost no delivery. I'm almost going to immediately probably add on and duplicate 5 more ad sets to this thing and adjust the previous bids that I have. The reason for that is because just like the game of Battleship, right? If I wake up and I realize I have no hits, I realize I'm much further away from the ship than I expected I would be. So I'm immediately adding more players to the game. And I'm going to adjust my previous bids just because I'm like, okay, I've got more work cut out for me here. So I'm going to adjust every bid I have, maybe up $3. And then the new ones that I deployed, I'm going to start at the top of what my previous bid was and go from there, right? It's just rapid expansion. I'm just like scaling this game really fast, right? Like I said, not marketer mode anymore. You're 100% media buyer mode. All right. So this is round 1. The next thing I'm immediately going to do is if we find a winner, again, I'm playing the media buying game. I'm going to duplicate this. And this becomes my cost cap campaign. I want to see how the algorithm is going to work or the account's going to work now with cost cap just as much as I want to work with bid cap, right? You guys have probably seen sometimes bid caps work better. Sometimes cost caps work better. Cost caps oftentimes though are another workhorse because there's so much more constrained into the CPA that it needs to deliver. It oftentimes will not spend as much as your bid caps, but it is sometimes more consistent and will get you better, cleaner results than bid cap. So now I'm going to change this to cost cap. Okay. PPAD, still ABO. Great. And then if you're doing this by designer, then designer, brands, and we established it was top 5, right? Because technically speaking, you could have a bid cap and cost cap campaign for every single one of your ad sets in that base core steady Eddie campaign, right? You could have one for the designer brands, you could have one for the wallet brands, and you could have one for the lookalikes, right? So you could have quite a few. Okay, we got this. We're going to come in here, ABO, changing these names. Here we go. CC. I'm just coming through. CC. CC. Putting them all in. Now with cost. Oh, wow. Language pattern interrupt. With cost cap, I find you oftentimes need to have a slightly higher threshold here instead of bid. Bid is such a well dialed in, this is what we're bidding. Cost cap is a little bit more lenient. So you might add on $1 to each one of your bids, right? So I might make this one 61, 77, 65, 69. This is 67, 73, 63, 75, 71, 79. Okay, save draft. And we are I'm going to see if I can adjust it here for all. Let's see. Yeah. Cost cap. Nice. Figures. 61, 7, 65, 67. Am I going too fast for anyone? Does this make sense? I haven't lost you guys yet, have I? It's not crazy what we're doing. You guys have probably all done at least one point of this at one time or another. It's just all in one day. It can be pretty intense because you're looking at a lot. All right. Save draft. Great. All right. Now, immediately, now we have quite a bit going after this designer brand interest, right? We are touching every aspect to this point. This is how you would do it for just one. You would do it for that, just one inside of it. The other thing that you can do inside of this is once you've gotten, let's say, for example, this starts spouting off. This ABO, let's let it publish for a second. I might just make it crash if I try to do much more. Okay. Now let's pretend that this, all of a sudden, this starts doing really well. We wake up and we see, okay, our 60, let's say 66 is crushing. 66 starts crushing. What do you guys think I'm going to start doing to the other bids?
Increase.
Increase, right. Yeah, if it's below 66, I'm going to start bringing it up. But let's say, 66 is crushing, 64 has no delivery. I might do, okay, this now becomes 66.50. This one has no delivery. So now we know 66 is crushing, but I'm going to look at, let's say 68 is not doing that well. Well, then that means okay, our ship is somewhere between 66 and 68. So maybe I do 67.25. If I see these all start doing really, really well, I'm going to duplicate this thing. I'm going to duplicate this. Let's do 3. Okay, if you said 66 is crushing, we might do 66.10, 66.25, 66.35, 66.45. Okay, crushing that. Okay, now we've got even more going. If it's still doing well, like at this point, when I create these micro bids that separate between them, what I'm easily going to do, I'm going to carry these over. Oop, as it highlights all of them. Someday. I'm going to duplicate the ones that are doing well, that are just underneath my bid. Let me just copy this. So again, I have the same naming conventions. I want to be as clean as possible. We just established 66 is doing well. So now what I'm going to do is highlight this, highlight these. Where's the one that's below it? And we'll just take this one. Now I'm going to duplicate. New campaign. Tofu offer, bid cap, plus ACC spend. Now, again, you want these guys to be crushing. They can't just be doing okay. They need to be doing very, very well, and you love it. You love the metrics that you see from it. Everything seems to be doing well. You're going to move it over. You can do ACC spend, which essentially is accelerated spend. So let me come down here. Underneath here, where is it? Show more options. There we go. Standard delivery, accelerated. Now, if you are an experienced media buyer, meaning you have well over $1 million in spend experience, you have freedom to do this. If you do not have over $1 million in spend experience, you must get sign off from Joshua or Rob or me or Isaac to do this. This is an advanced scaling strategy, but it can be very bad if you don't manage it correctly. Basically, what I've done is, okay, I found the point of entry where I start getting delivery and it's getting me wins in the auction place. So now what I want to do, rather than compensating for a higher ad set budget, I want to tell Facebook that if there are conversions to be had at this bid, I want you to spend my money as fast as possible. The cool thing is here is if Facebook sees 100 conversions at 9 a.m. or 9:02 and you have budget, they will spend all of that budget trying to get those wins, right? If you don't have enough budget, it's still going to spend it anyway. That's the thing with accelerated spend. It's telling Facebook to ignore pacing. I don't care if you have money at 3 p.m. to spend. If there are conversions to be had right now, spend the money. So when you go into this new campaign, okay, we've got accelerated spend campaign. These bad boys are all crushing. Well, I want to go ahead and I want to duplicate. This is where we get really granular. This, guys, is why they call me the most savage mother effer in media buying, because this is the part that takes time and finesse. You're going to be inching your bids by pennies. Okay. It's no longer like $2 difference or anything like that. I've already found my ships. And so now all I want to do is how do I get the highest leverage, right? So this is where I go, okay, let's pretend 66.35 is my killer. That's my killer bid. That's destroying. That's doing really, really well. I'm going to go in and do 66.40, 66.45, 66.50. And then I also might do 66.35. 66.30, right? And as I see those bits start to work, and let's say now all of a sudden I see 66.35 doing, well, I'm going to adjust, or if all the other ad sets are still doing well, I'm going to duplicate again and add more finite bits, 66.36, 66.37, 66.38, right? I'm like dialing in, like, where is all of the leverage points that I can find inside of this? Facebook ad account reps right now would be losing their fucking minds because it's not best practice at all to do this, but it freaking works. I can show it over and over again, it working. So that's essentially what now this campaign's done, right? Let me pull out here. Let me just do Black Friday, Cyber Monday. As it ignores my filter. So you guys see, now all of a sudden we have 1, 2, 3, 4 campaigns created for one single interest set. Pretty heavy, right? So what I want to do next, though, is I want to show you guys how to not let this make you lose your mind. I want to show you some automated rules that you can set up, that you can use. Because again, your job that day is not what new offers can I bring to market. It's how am I finding the highest amount of leverage inside of the auctions and make sure everything I have set up is working, right? Because we have now a system working. We have lowest cost being tested across the board. We have bid caps being tested across the board. We have cost caps being tested across the board. And now we have accelerated spend being tested across the board, right? If you have 3 ad sets that are crushing that day, technically speaking, you should have 9 campaigns, right? 3 campaigns per ad set that actually is working, right? So let's kind of dive back out a little bit and let me pull up some rules you guys can implement here. Okay. You guys will get access to this, but I highly recommend that you look at this. Now, let's keep in mind what kind of world we live in right now. We live in an iOS tracking issue world where things are not as clear, right? Obviously, the strategies I just showed you are a lot of dependent on like, well, is that ad set actually showing you the results that it's producing? What you're going to have to lean on to next is a holistic view at the store, Shopify level. If we don't have access to their Shopify stores, they need to give it to you for that day. Okay. They can take it away later, but you need to have Shopify access the day of for this week. A couple things here. 1, stop loss rules are basic. Normally I recommend 1.5 above your target. However, because of the tracking attribution, we have to assume that day you're going to see very little in the campaign or the ad account. And even if you do see inside the ad account, it doesn't actually mean that's the ad set producing results. So what you want to start doing is every day this week, Joshua's probably already started it. I don't know if he's taught you guys to do it yet or not, but you want to keep a journal for each of your ad accounts that you'll be managing during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I want you to check that ad account at these times And if you guys have already been taught this, just let me know. But 9 a.m. Actually, screw it. Not Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We want 7 a.m. CT, 9 a.m. CT. Oop. Someday I'll be able to actually type this out. My computer's really lagging right now. There we go. 11 a.m. CT, 3 p.m. CT, 5 p.m. CT, and then 8/9. I'll let you decide. PM CT. You want to keep these very consistent. What this is going to do is this week, we want to start gauging the behavior of accounts in traffic and volume flow. Okay. The reason you want to do it this week is because it's not going to be the same as normal weeks. This is a holiday week. So people are starting to get into their more holiday routines. You want to start writing these down manually because you need to start developing an inner gut, because that day, the day of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or over the weekend, you're going to want to be able to predict about where the account's going to end up at the end of the day based on what you see at 7 a.m., based on what you see at 11 a.m., based on what you see at 3 p.m., right? Because again, we don't have full clarity on the results in the account, but if we can gauge how traffic works and the store's revenue works throughout the week, we can start to set a baseline in our minds on what to expect.
Ashton, if
That
you want to
way,
click on that,
yeah, go ahead.
if you want to click on that doc, maybe show a visual reference with what I have so far in the chat, the Zoom chat.
Oh, sick.
Could we make a copy of that doc that you just put in the chat, Josh, and like customize it for our accounts?
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah. So Joshua started doing this last week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is exactly what you're looking for. If you want to do this on just a spreadsheet, it's easy, no problem. But now when he wakes up around this time, he's going to start to be able to set a baseline of how the end of the day is going to actually look. Right. So if he starts to understand that, okay, if he sees 11:30, EST is typically around a 2.4 blended, and then he can see around the end of the day what it equals out to be. Over time, you're going to start to develop a little bit of a guesstimate on where you'll actually end up. Right now, it's not going to be super accurate as far as like down to the penny or down to the $100, but what you're really looking for here is just momentum. How does momentum actually look? If I start the day at this momentum, will I still have positive momentum towards the end of the day? The reason for that is because while you're spending, it's going to be harder for you to judge whether or not to turn stuff off or not. And what you'll get from partners is they're going to see what the results they actually have. So if they see at 11 a.m. momentum isn't there, it's not doing well, they might tell you to start pulling back when really you already know internally that there's another momentum cycle that happens around 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. that'll bring it back into KPI, right? The same goes for scaling. They might see, oh my God, we're doing amazing at 9 a.m. Let's spend, go spend more money. But you might actually know that there's a dip coming. So to start spending your scale at 12 p.m. might not be a good idea because from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., it's actually pretty dead. And if you turn up that budget right at that moment, you're going to be forcing Facebook to spend during that period that it's dead. So it actually might be hey, this is awesome, but I'm not going to turn up budget right now because at 4 p.m. we have another momentum cycle. So I'm going to scale budget, but we're going to scale it at 4 p.m. when we know there's immediately more opportunities. We're not just forcing Facebook to spend money because again, tracking will not be accurate. You will not have a good clarity on what ad sets are actually crushing or not. The second thing is to start keeping track of your outbound your outbound click costs, your click-through rate costs, and your CPM costs. I would almost recommend adding that into your sheets. Oh, perfect. Just like how he has here. You might want to add click-through rate and CPM costs. CPM is going to be important because CPMs on that day is going to be very high. Okay. And if you're basing your gut off of, routine data that you've had from the past week, but that's based off a $30 CPM, but on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's $80 CPMs. Well, then your gut needs to be refined, right? You've got to adapt it. So I would recommend including CPM costs on that date. Okay. Click costs is going to be important too, because you're going to set some rules off of that. When you don't have the ability to understand if your ad sets are actually producing purchases, you've got to start calculating them based on click costs. How much attention am I bringing to the website? From that, you're going to need to keep an eye on conversion rates of the website itself. Okay. So if I know I generate 100 clicks at $2 and it generates this many sales, well, then that's good. But what happens when your CPMs are up, making your click costs double, and now it's a different SKU, right? So keep in mind of that because you're going to set up rules now for click costs. Okay. So there's a couple of rules you're going to set up. Stop loss rule. If spend 2x, I recommend a 2x your CPA and 0 results, then turn off today. That's continuous. If CPA is 2x, and X, then turn off today as well. Fail-safe rules. These ones to turn stuff back on. Because our tracking on purchases is not going to be that accurate, you want to make sure you have the fail-safe rules because you will have delayed attribution. That's just going to happen. So you want to make sure that even if you have these as safety measures, right, it's not turning it off. If your goal is $30, it's not going to turn it off at 35. It's going to turn it off at 60. right? Because you don't want to go crazy. You still need those rules to turn it back on because there's a good chance that purchases will pop back in, making that CPA less. You guys know this stuff. This stuff is pretty basic. Timing rules is going to be a big one for you guys. Timing rules are incredible. If name says reset 12 a.m. and ROAS is less than the target ROAS, then pause at 12 a.m. What this means essentially is if, for example, I want to add this into an ad set's name, which I would probably recommend is as you're moderating them throughout the day, you're actually just going to be appending their ad set names. Okay. So, okay, good. For example, if I add, let me just delete this copy out, reset 12 a.m. You can literally now create a rule that says create rule, custom rule, ad set ID, all active ad sets, and it's turned on. Name contains reset. Then I want to do it daily, custom. And just for time's sake, all of them, let's say, I said it's reset 12. You could do 12 a.m. You could do reset 4 a.m., whatever. Depends on whatever you want to do. But what I like to do is during that day, let's say Friday, an ad set starts getting towards the end of the day. It's not doing so hot. I'm going to pause it, but it was doing pretty well, meaning I want it to turn on the next day. All you have to do now is add in the reset, let's say I said 4 a.m. If that's in the ad set, I can tell this rule that every day at 4 a.m., go turn on any ad set that says reset 4 a.m. That way I don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. The rule will go find the ad set with the names inside of it and it'll automatically turn it on for me. Same thing if you were scaling that campaign or scaling that ad set. For example, it's doing really well and you surf it. If anyone doesn't know what surfing is, just let me know. But you're surfing that ad set, you're doubling the budget multiple times a day. Well, you don't actually want it to you don't want it to become the next day with that budget. Right? Because now you've given it a crap ton of budget and it's just going to oftentimes going to spend off the walls the next day because it's just now it's got an insane budget, right? It maybe started out at $500 a day. By the end of the day of you surfing it, it has $5,000 of budget, right? You want to make sure you reset that budget. So now what you can do, again, ad set name, if it does, reset, whatever you want to call it, reset budget here, and it has the budget. You got to change this. All you got to do is decrease daily budget by, and you can do like a 50%, right? So you might make this rule's name reset 50, right? Now at whatever custom time you want it, which could be midnight if you just want it daily, at midnight, any ad set that has reset 50 on it, it's going to just cut the budget by 50%. That way, the next day when it starts, it's much more stable. It's not as insane of a budget that you gave it, right? There's so many things that you can add inside the rules by just doing a if ad set name contains. I want you guys to really think about all the options that you can do here because that's going to start automating a lot of your work. Let's come back over here. Like I said, says 4A launch, then you're good. If I start noticing that my ad sets or my campaigns just start dying right around 11 p.m., right? Because people are starting to go to bed, they're starting to go to sleep. But if you have things with a $10,000 a day budget and it's still got $3,000, well, it's going to spend it anytime, right? I don't necessarily want my campaign spending thousands of dollars at 2 a.m. because people aren't up, right? Some people are, but not enough for me to want to spend that money. So I'll turn things off. I might have things automatically turn off at 11 p.m. or at 12 a.m. and then have it reset at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Well, the way to do that without, relaunching and then scheduling is to have something like this inside your ad set name or your campaign name. So just keep that in mind. Super, super helpful. Here's some others. Like I said, I kind of just walked you through these. Reset 50%, reset 25, cut budget in half. Here's the other ones. Lead indicators. These are the main ones that you're going to want to focus on. These are on click costs, CPM costs, unique outbound click costs. These are the if spent X and 0 page views, then I want to turn it off. Right? That's how you're going to start to have to gauge these ad sets is if they're generating actual page views or outbound clicks, things like that. You're going to want to base your rules off of clicks, first party data that we know to be accurate. Right? So if, unique outbound click is less than X, then turn off today. Ad set name contains man bid and it's spent less than X, increase bid 10%. How do we do this? This is for these ad sets, like we said, we were testing that if over here, come here. If we're over here and we notice, okay, my bid caps are not actually spending anything. Let's say that these guys are, but these ones aren't. How do I do that without, needing to review it? Well, you can manually review it. You just sort by had delivery and then sort by least, mouse spent, go down to the bottom. You'll see the ones that don't have any money, or you can actually create a rule, custom rule here, active ad sets, increase budget bid by 10%. give it an extreme. So in this case, right, $66 is our typical hovering point. I might make my top bid, maximum bid would be, let's say $80. That's the highest I want Facebook to ever bring my bid to on automatically. Anything else I want to do it once hourly. If spent is less than $10, right? It's not spent $10, it's not getting delivery. So now I'm telling Facebook, hey, if an ad set spent less than $10 today, go ahead and increase the bid 10% every hour until it's spent more than $10, right? Now Facebook is finding your bids for you automatically, right? Let's do this though. On the flip side, content rule, custom rule, ad set, decrease bid by 10%. And we know we don't want to go any lower than, 63 is our range. So let's say 55. We don't want it to go any lower than 55. Once hourly is spent is greater than, let's say, if it's out of control, it's probably around $50. If it's greater than $50 and cost per unique outbound click is greater than, let's say, for example, his baseline standard for the account is $4. All right. Now I'm basically saying, hey, if an ad set is spent over $50 and the cost per click is over $4, decrease the bid. You're spending too much. I want it to decrease by 10%. Right. Now, what you could do, what I would recommend probably is if you did a rule like this, adding something to your ad set name that helps as a like you telling Facebook to go ahead and auto bid for you, to auto, find the bid. So you might do, sniffing. All right. Let's just say that's the name. Contains sniff. Right. So now that's my action code that, hey, Facebook, I don't want you to just do this across the board. I only want you to do this on ad sets that I add the word sniff to the ad set. Now, that's kind of how you're automating now Facebook doing work for you. Is like, now you're still in full control, but you're like, I don't want to watch that ad set all day or this campaign all day. All right, Facebook, go ahead. If sniff is inside the ad set name, go ahead and start doing that hourly check for me. Right. Now your day-to-day goes from trying to find things to scale to just checking to make sure your rules are doing its job. Right. So that way you can kind of focus on more at a time, because, realistically, keep in mind that you're doing, you have 9 different campaigns for just this one partner, but you've got other partners to do. So you want to spend time on your automated rules to make sure it's actually doing that work for you. What questions do you guys have?
You'd probably recommend doing the CPA data with the rules within Magix.
Yeah. See, if you have any kind of third-party tracking, you're going to want to use, a third party. I don't personally want to use Magix just because I know that day they have every single one of their partners doing big stuff inside of their software. So I would rather focus on rules I can create specifically within Facebook. That's a little tinfoil hat. Technically speaking, if their software works, it should. But just because of the budgets that we're managing, I want to keep as much as we can controlled within Facebook as possible and rely less on exterior softwares outside of Magix, obviously, in their audiences and their remarketing, right? But their rules, and if they have one mishap, what would that do for me?
Based on your experience with the third-party software, let's say we've got a partner using Hyros, setting your bid, setting your cost caps. Do you look more at the Facebook dashboard? Like if our target, let's say our CPA at Hyros is 90, but it shows 120 in Facebook, we would be setting our bids and cost caps off of that 120 because that's what Facebook thinks.
Yep, exactly.
Cool.
For partners with tracking like Wicked, are you really just basing your decisions off of lead indicators throughout the day? Because we're not going to get the data till day after.
Exactly. I'm looking at what is bringing in a phenomenal or exceptional amount of traffic. And then I'm keeping a watch on the conversion rate of the website. Is the conversion rate staying the same? Good. Then logic would say if I drive this much traffic with this ad set, then it's produced this many purchases. Right. Obviously that's not perfect, but it's probably about the best that we could do with knowing that delayed attribution is definitely coming in.
So in the sense of, I've had certain circumstances with
because we mentioned a client's name.
CPMs are great, cost per click is good, outbound click-through rate is awesome, and it generates no purchases versus something with really high CPM, terrible cost per click, terrible outbound. At that point, because logic would be like, okay, well, obviously the better performing ad set in terms of lead indicators is the one that's driving the purchases, but really it's the shitty one. What you just kind of.
That's why these audiences need to be proven, right? Because they're not going to weed. There's always that like example right there. There's always can happen, but it's a like of our best estimation, what is most likely the case. Now, if you're just testing audiences you've never tested before, well, then it could be shit quality traffic, right? But if these are proven audiences, proven to do the quality in the past, proven creatives to do well in the past, then our logic would state that it can't be necessarily the ad sets that we're running or the audiences that we're using because we've used them for so long in the past. Now, there's always going to be that situation that could happen, but at least in this case, you know, we're probably hedging just about the most as you could possibly hedge.
Okay, sounds good.
With the audiences, so currently one of my best performers are a lookalike stack, but I have probably 3 different what do you call it, seed audiences, and it's up to like 5%. So realistically, it's a stack of probably 8 or 9 lookalikes. Like, is that probably advised against because there's so many? Because it seems like we want like 5. So like,
yeah, you think about, I mean, 9 or 10 is pretty intense. I mean, that's a lot of data. Now, if it's something that you've used over and over again, and 8 or 9 audiences have been used over and over again to work, then I would just go ahead and use it because it's still a proven audience at that point, right? That's definitely a lot of data. So you just have to keep that in mind that like this is such a large audience that I'm depending a lot on Facebook to find the audience, which could be actually a good thing or it could be a bad thing. But to answer your question, like if that was my situation and I had my best ad set was 8 to 9, I would still use it because that's my control.
Yeah.
For
So I'm bleeping over this again just because we review a private client name here.
a ton on Black Friday, how do you avoid, because that's one ad set that's been duplicated a bunch, how do you avoid auction overlap and like first time impression ratio going up and then killing the results? Or do you just expect that and not really worry because you have other also duplicated winners?
Yeah, I couldn't care less about dupe or like I guess audience saturation or overlapping, because the whole point of Black Friday Cyber Monday is total saturation, right? That's what we want. We want all of them to see as us, and we don't need these campaigns to last longer than 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
So that's why it's totally against best practice. But all we're trying to do is like, we're literally like, normally we never want to like hack. How do we hack the algorithm? Like those days are long past, but on days like today, we are literally just trying to hack the algorithm. How do we beat out everyone else? And how do we hack it? Not for long-term success or optimization, but for short-term benefit. And they don't like it because that's not what it's designed for, but that's what we're trying to do. The one thing I would also recommend, guys, is on these days, we haven't talked about remarketing, and maybe we talk about that tomorrow. But remarketing, I would very strongly suggest like tuned in remarketing audiences, meaning add to carts, page views, ad payment infos, but on like a reach with a frequency cap, and put your frequency cap at like 10 a day. And like, you just want to hammer these people with unique. You want to hit everyone that hits the page, everyone that adds a cart. I probably wouldn't do engagement because engagement could get out of control, but hits a page, adds a cart, adds payment info. We want to hit them as hard as we can with different angles. So I might recommend using something like a reach campaign on it alongside of conversion. Again, this is not designed to be best practice. I am trying to find out what allows me to break the algorithm as much as I can. So if I'm doing remarketing, I'm going to test conversion. I'm also going to test traffic. I'm also going to test reach. I just want to see what gets me the cheaper traffic and the most eyes. On remarketing, I couldn't care less if they are like in my bucket. They've hit add a cart. They are in my bucket. I know that they're in my bucket. So I just want Facebook to hit these people at the cheapest cost I can. And typically, reach campaigns will give you cheaper costs because they're not as expensive as conversion ads. So just keep that in mind. Like everything you're doing is just like, how do I test this in 3 different ways that the algorithm or the ad account will let me, and just see which one works. Because if you're spending a lot of money, some of you don't have these high of spend accounts, so it might not be as applicable to you. But if you do have high spend accounts, you don't care about optimization. You just care about, let me try all 3 right now. Let it run for 3 hours or 2 hours and let me see which one is cheaper. Then I'm just going to go with that one even heavier. What else? Any other questions? No questions?
For those accounts that are not running Black Friday deals, how would you recommend like kind of reducing ad costs and maintaining performance there?
So the first thing is going to be making sure we check in with partners on what their thresholds are. They should know that if they are not running a Black Friday, Cyber Monday offer, their chances of doing well is very low. So it's just more of realistically, it's like either you just want to turn off ads, or we run just like normal business. But at what point would you like me to go ahead and pause? Because people on Friday or Saturday or Sunday or Monday, if it is not Black Friday or Cyber Monday inside the titles, most likely they do not care about it. Heck, even if you're not running a Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I recommend just putting it in the copy. Even if there's no real sale, no anything, like have something somewhere where it's like, happy Black Friday weekend. Here's what we're offering. Like you don't even have to give a sale, but you've got to have some kind of contextual surrounding around the holiday.
Out again because we mentioned a private client name.
But would you suggest even just putting, because it's like a $25 offer currently, 83 cents a day. Just even putting like a banner on his site on the landing page, just so it makes it seem like it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Because he is running a sale. It's just not exclusive to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right?
Exactly.
So why not even starting now? Hey, our Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal start today. Run it, and just see what people have to say. Anything else? That was pretty thick. So did I lose any of you? Do you need to rewatch it again later? We're good. Cool. All right. Bam. That's all I got. Okay, so for one thing I totally forgot to talk to you guys about was creative refreshes and creative itself on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, how to do it. The thing I want you guys to do, like I said, most of the pretty much all the campaigns I showed you were post IDs. But what you want to do is actually, when you have all your campaigns created, you're going to want to go back to that baseline campaign, and you're going to want to duplicate this. Yep, new campaign. Okay. And it's DCO. You want to turn this one into a DCO campaign. The only thing that changes on this campaign is when you go inside of each one, you want to flip that switch that makes them DCO. Okay. So you just do that for all of them. Obviously, that's going to ruin the ads inside of the ad set. Delete all of them except that one. You want to add in your best creatives and your headlines and your copy pieces for Cyber Monday, Black Friday, right? Ideally, you max out the creative section, the images and video, put in the 5 headlines, but only have 2 to 3 max on the body copies themselves. Okay. The reason you're going to do this is because as they start to perform, technically speaking, this should still be your baseline campaign, but this is going to be a campaign that you can surf. This one, if it starts working, the other baseline, the post ID one, if it starts working, you don't want to really mess with the budget that much. Maybe you want to bump it 20%, but you don't want to mess it with it much. This is your baseline campaign to start finding out which ad sets are going to work for you. But this one, the DCO one, if it starts working, this is the one that you can surf. If it's crushing by 12 p.m., you can double the budget. If it's still crushing by 3 p.m., double the budget again. The reason for that is if this is DCO, you're going to not have issues with fatigue and it won't have a learning phase because it's dynamic creative. Okay. So you want to make sure you have this one because if the campaign as a whole works, you can scale this one rapidly while you're doing everything else. But this one will have more of a baseline layer covering the spend across different audiences. And you can scale it more aggressively because you won't have that learning mode. But you've got to make sure that you set that one up days before. Like this one needs to be set up a while because dynamic creative takes days to approve. Okay. So this is one that you would want to set up today to get ready for that day. But you want to have your dynamics in because you won't have issues with fatigue. It'll rotate through creatives. It'll make sure that you're having that good side of the creative. But if you try to launch a dynamic creative that day, it will not run, maybe even all weekend. So make sure you set up your dynamic creative now as the baseline campaign. You duplicate that one. The other ones will all be post IDs. You're going to feed a bunch of social proof on it, but this is a good baseline campaign that still has it spread across the different audiences that you believe should work, but you'll be refresh the creative. So that's definitely one that you'll want to set up early and make sure you have it against it. Make sense? Cool. All right. That is it.